Renjo has always quietly thought that love is something meant for other people. He spends his childhood without any real friends. His parents separate because they can never see eye to eye, and he grows up without forming any dreams about romance or emotional bonds. Because of those difficult experiences, he comes to believe that marriage is something far beyond his reach, something reserved for a distant future, or perhaps something that will never happen to him at all. That long-held belief starts to shake when a beautiful Nordic girl suddenly confesses her feelings to him and openly states that she wants Renjo to marry her. At this point, Renjo has already listened to the same request from the girl 6 separate times. On every occasion, his calm answer stays exactly the same, as he continues to remind her that he is only 16 years old, and that marriage at that age is not legally allowed in Japan. The reserved girl, named Riuri, explains that what she actually desires is for Renjo to become her fiancé. Renjo understands that he would be truly pleased if this were an honest confession of affection. However, it soon becomes obvious that Riuri is only interested in securing an engagement with him rather than pursuing a romantic connection. These strange developments can all be traced back to several days before. Everything starts pleasantly on a normal afternoon when Renjo heads home after school and visits a bookstore he often frequents. From Renjo's perspective, the shop carries a decent collection of books, although many of the shelves are placed frustratingly high. During that same rainy afternoon, he notices another customer who seems to be facing the exact same difficulty. That person is Ino Riuri, one of Renjo's classmates, a Finnish girl who tends to remain isolated and almost never socializes with others. Renjo quietly wonders whether Riuri has also just finished school and come here, just as he has. At the same time, he figures that if he attempts to approach her, she will probably dismiss him without hesitation. To his surprise, Riuri suddenly turns her gaze toward Renjo, and their eyes lock at once. The unexpected eye contact causes Riuri to lose her footing, and she begins to fall, but Renjo reaches her in time and catches her before she hits the ground. Afterward, Renjo politely asks if she is all right and checks whether she has been injured. Riuri, in return, softly acknowledges Renjo. This catches him completely by surprise, since he never imagines that she even knows who he is. His astonishment deepens when she proves that she even knows his first name, Toro. Renjo realizes with a hint of sadness that nobody has called him by his real name in quite some time. Riuri then quietly signals that she would like him to let go of her, while Renjo points out that she is still resting against him. Riuri regains her posture neatly and takes a step back. Renjo helps her on instinct, without expecting anything in return. Rather than expressing appreciation, Riuri stays guarded and watchful. Even then, Renjo does not find the response upsetting, since he never expects gratitude from anyone to begin with. As Renjo prepares to leave, Riuri speaks up and asks whether he helped her because she was about to fall. Renjo is surprised, not because of the question itself, but because Riuri speaks Japanese with remarkable clarity and ease. He answers with a short confirmation. At the same moment, he notices another unexpected detail. Ryuri's expression seems warm and approachable, which is completely different from the image he has of her at school, where she usually appears cold and unreadable. Riuri then firmly states that Renjo should not get the wrong idea, explaining that she never actually required his assistance. Renjo does not entirely share that opinion, yet he feels that perhaps he has inconvenienced her. His keen intuition warns him that becoming involved with her any further could bring unnecessary complications. Despite that feeling, Renjo still finds himself offering to get the book Riuri is reaching for. He reasons that forcing herself again could be risky, and he also thinks it would be quicker for him to retrieve it than to look for a staff member. Riuri quietly tells him that the book she wants is called The Long Goodbye. Renjo instantly recognizes the famous novel and identifies Chandler as its author. Riuri then asks whether Renjo has read it before, and Renjo explains that he spends a lot of time reading. At that brief instant, Ryuri's cheeks flush red, and Renjo senses that this reaction does not match the impression he has always had of her. Renjo takes the book from the shelf and hands it over, but Riuri points out that this does not mean she expects him to handle everything on her behalf. Renjo then makes a move to return the book to the shelf, causing Riuri to assume that he is acting cold toward her. From Renjo's point of view, however, he feels that Riuri is the one being difficult. Soon afterward, Riuri becomes noticeably happy that Renjo ultimately helps her, and she thanks him for it. Renjo wonders with interest whether Riuri simply is not accustomed to expressing gratitude. Riuri openly admits that acting tough is one of her flaws. Renjo responds by thinking that perhaps it is not a flaw at all if it serves as a means for Riuri to shield herself. He remembers how Riuri always presents herself in class as someone distant and unreachable, and he becomes certain that there must be a reason for that behavior. Even so, Renjo has no desire to become any closer to her, because whenever he forms a bond with someone important, he becomes painfully conscious of how average he really is. Riuri gently repeats that acting strong is her way of protecting herself, and she also remarks that Renjo is a kind person. The comment catches Renjo completely off guard, and he immediately feels the need to reject it, convinced that anyone else would have done the same thing. Riuri, however, makes it clear that for her, the fact that Renjo is the one who did it is what matters. Renjo quietly notices that Ryuri's eyes sparkle brightly, like precious gemstones. After watching her for a moment longer in complete silence, he realizes that he has stayed there for too long than intended. He expresses that he is glad he can be of help today, and then prepares to leave without hesitation. Ryuri attempts to stop Renjo right away, as he steps out of the bookstore entrance. At the same time, Renjo realizes that he forgets to buy the book he originally intends to purchase earlier. Even so, he chooses not to involve himself any further than necessary, feeling that it is not his place. He only wants to return to his quiet, ordinary, and uneventful days once again. At that moment, Renjo never imagines that he will end up being with Ryuri every single day afterward, nor does the thought ever cross his mind at all. The next day, Renjo feels drowsy in class as usual because he stays up too late watching anime and reading mystery novels. Even so, he forces himself to remain awake somehow, since the next subject, world history, happens to be his favorite subject. While trying to stay focused during class, Renjo suddenly senses that the atmosphere around him feels strange somehow. He becomes aware of someone standing behind him quietly. When he turns around in confusion, he realizes that it is Ryuri standing there. Ryuri approaches him with the intention of informing him that she wants to speak with him during the lunch break later today. She then invites Renjo to have lunch together that afternoon. Renjo is immediately taken aback by this. At the same time, the surrounding students witness the scene and react with complete disbelief, as they never expect Ryuri to invite Renjo, a boy who is completely unremarkable and inconspicuous in class. Ryuri briefly assumes that Renjo might refuse her offer. Renjo, on the other hand, perceives the situation as a potential problem for him, knowing that a wrong response could escalate into something much bigger than he can handle alone. One of the students points out that Ryuri seems unusually close to Renjo since the previous day already. Ryuri clarifies that it is not like that at all, and explains that Renjo simply helps her the day before. This explanation shocks the other students immediately. Renjo then adds that they merely happened to meet at a bookstore by chance, and that he only helps her retrieve a book from a shelf above. He further explains that it does not end there either, because when Ryuri nearly falls, he instinctively supports her by holding her and steadying her body safely. The students react with genuine astonishment upon learning that Renjo ends up holding Ryuri directly. Ryuri feels that she owes Renjo proper gratitude for what happens yesterday. Renjo becomes confused, as he does not believe that his actions are anything significant at all. Ryuri insists that even if Renjo considers it trivial and insignificant, she herself cannot feel at ease unless she expresses her thanks properly. For that reason, she intends to treat Renjo to lunch today, and even encourages him to choose the most expensive item available in the cafeteria menu. Renjo finds himself uncertain about what to do next. He understands that getting involved with a special and beautiful girl like Ryuri is bound to invite trouble sooner or later. From a rational perspective alone, declining her offer seems like the wisest choice available. However, Renjo notices that Ryuri gathers considerable courage just to invite him personally. He begins to think that the elegant figure he imagines her to be is, in reality, merely a shy girl who struggles with social interaction every day. At this moment, Renjo lacks confidence in himself and initially wants to avoid unnecessary complications altogether. Yet, if he refuses her now without consideration, he senses that his self-disgust will only deepen further. Renjo reasons that he does not do anything important enough to justify being treated to a full meal like this. As a compromise, he decides that he will only ask for a coffee from the vending machine after lunch instead. When Ryuri asks again due to his silence and hesitation, Renjo finally accepts her invitation as a gesture of thanks for what happens the day before. Ryuri feels relieved and grateful for that, but soon after, her expression shifts, and she makes it clear that this lunch does not carry any special meaning whatsoever and exists solely as an act of gratitude. Renjo acknowledges that he understands her intention completely. Ryuri's face grows even redder as she emphasizes that Renjo should not misunderstand anything about this, insisting that she feels no enjoyment in the situation whatsoever. It is at that moment that Renjo realizes he is witnessing what is known as a tsundere attitude firsthand. He starts to wonder whether Riuri is actually interested in him somehow, questioning whether it stems from the incident at the bookstore or from some other reason he cannot yet grasp fully. Riuri then questions whether Renjo feels happy about this situation, assuming that most boys would feel pleased in such circumstances. She also wonders whether Renjo is the same as most boys around her. Renjo acknowledges that he can be considered no different from them overall. Riuri comes to understand this, and assumes that Renjo too feels pleased about it. Renjo begins to think that this moment might be a turning point in his life somehow. He imagines that if he had refused Riuri at that time without hesitation, the unexpected future in which he becomes Ryuri's fiancé would never come to pass. During the lunch break later, Riuri gives Renjo a choice between buying food at a convenience store or eating at the cafeteria, explaining that she will simply follow whichever option Renjo chooses in the end. Renjo notices that every small gesture she makes appears unexpectedly cute to him somehow. He then suggests eating at the cafeteria instead. Because Riuri naturally draws attention wherever she goes around campus, Renjo prefers to guide her toward a quieter area that is not too crowded with students. Renjo walks at a brisk pace ahead, unintentionally leaving Riuri slightly behind him. When he looks back to check, Riuri assures him that she is fine and indicates that Renjo does not need to trouble himself by worrying about her constantly. Renjo responds by telling himself that Riuri does not need to push herself so hard either. Even though Riuri claims that she is fine for now, Renjo still feels concerned about her condition overall. Through these small interactions between them, Renzo begins to realize that Riuri is actually the shy type by nature. Renzo reflects on this impression quietly, and Riuri eventually acknowledges it herself without denial. She admits that she is shy, soft-hearted, and unable to be honest at times, though she insists that she is not a coward whatsoever. Almost immediately after speaking, Riuri realizes that she has spoken too freely and suspects that Renjo deliberately leads her into saying such things accidentally. Renjo, however, understands that Riuri is simply caught by her own words instead. Riuri accepts this realization and grows embarrassed by it immediately. At that point, Renjo becomes convinced that Riuri is truly a shy girl deep down. Despite her stiff and cold exterior appearance, she is actually gentle and emotionally vulnerable on the inside beneath everything. Renjo briefly wonders whether he is being too straightforward with her lately. In truth, he wants to keep some distance from Riuri for now, yet he does not want to hurt her feelings in any way whatsoever. Renjo then reflects that, by comparison to her, he considers himself more of a coward than she is. Renjo acknowledges his own flaws honestly, recognizing that he is shy, soft-hearted, cowardly, and unable to be honest with himself. He even believes that he is far more closed off than Riuri herself in many ways. Riuri, in turn, concludes that at their core, the two of them are essentially the same, sharing similar weaknesses and insecurities. Renjo, however, feels that they are not truly alike at all, because he does not see himself as someone special like Riuri, who many students in class nicknamed the goddess Freya. Riuri reacts with surprise upon hearing this description, firmly believing that she is neither a goddess nor a special existence whatsoever. As they reach a vending machine nearby, they find that it is already completely empty. Riuri then focuses on choosing their meal instead. Renjo selects seta without hesitation, and Riuri decides to order the same set, though she maintains a blunt attitude, making it clear that this choice does not mean she wants to imitate him in any way. Renjo realizes that he expects himself to be far more nervous around the most beautiful girl in school. Instead, he finds that he is acting more naturally than he ever anticipates before. He begins to suspect that when it comes to books and literature, he and Riuri likely share many common interests, making them more alike than he initially believes. Renjo then glances toward Riuri for a moment, and she immediately becomes aware of his gaze. Renjo reassures himself that there is nothing unusual to point out here. He knows that there is no way he could admit that he is momentarily captivated by her expression and appearance. Seeing Riuri smile like that again reminds Renjo of his childhood friend, who often wears the same kind of smile before an incident eventually separates them forever. This memory leads Renjo to question whether becoming more deeply involved with Riuri will cause him to be hurt again, just as he is in the past before. As Renjo looks at Riuri standing right in front of him, he feels that she is far too special, shining so brightly that rejecting her seems impossible for him. After waiting for a while patiently, their set A meals finally arrive. They choose a table nearby and sit down together. Once the food is placed in front of them, Renjo prepares to step away briefly to get a drink, but Riuri stops him before he can leave. Suddenly, Renjo and Riuri run into Tomoka unexpectedly. Tomoka immediately points out that Renjo is rarely seen together with a girl before. Renjo also notices that Tomoka is alone at that moment as well. Tomoko explains that it is merely a coincidence today, emphasizing that she does not always live her life alone, unlike Renjo. Hearing this, Renjo feels compelled to apologize immediately. Inside, Renjo grows tense and panicked very quickly, because at a moment like this, he ends up encountering the person he least wants to meet. Tomoka is the girl he hurts in the past, someone who eventually comes to resent him deeply. Tomoka then wonders whether Riuri is Renjo's girlfriend now. Riuri reacts by questioning why it would matter if that were true. Renjo is caught off guard by this, as he secretly hopes Riuri will not respond in such a way. Tomoka proceeds to imply that Riuri should not involve herself romantically with someone as hopeless as Renjo. Riuri immediately pushes back against that claim, making it clear that Tomoka has no right to speak poorly about Renjo, as it is not her concern whatsoever. Renjo then explains that Tomoka is his childhood friend. Even as he says this aloud, Renjo feels increasingly anxious inside, fearing that Tomoka might reveal something from his past that is meant to remain hidden at school forever. Riuri cannot understand the concern at all, since Tomoka is only Renjo's childhood friend. Tomoka responds by stating that their connection naturally goes deeper than that. She then reveals that she is Renjo's former fiancé. Riuri is visibly shocked by this revelation immediately. At the same time, Renjo's panic intensifies even further, as this is his greatest secret, something that should never come to light publicly. He feels that Tomoka has broken their promise completely, because the past is supposed to remain buried within the school environment. Tomoka dismisses his concern without hesitation, stating that it does not matter, since the engagement between her and Renjo is arranged by their families from childhood. She adds that she herself does not even dwell on it anymore nowadays. Tomoka goes on to claim that she understands Renjo far better than Riuri ever could. Riuri questions what Tomoka means by that statement. Tomoka clarifies that she is warning Riuri not to get too deeply involved with someone as flawed as Renjo. She describes Renjo as the kind of person who, when faced with a critical situation, abandons his fiancée and runs away without looking back. Throughout this accusation directed at him, Renjo remains silent, unable to offer any defense for himself. Riuri responds by stating that she does not know what truly happens between Renjo and Tomoka in the past, but she cannot accept the idea that Renjo is a bad person. Tomoka questions Ryuri's reasoning behind that belief, and assumes that Riuri simply refuses to believe her words, despite her long history with Renjo. Riuri explains that what she believes in is not Renjo of the past, but the Renjo who stands in front of her now, someone she sees as kind-hearted and sincere. Tomoka warns Riuri that if she ends up regretting her decision someday, she should not blame anyone else afterward. Riuri calmly replies that she will not regret it, because she is not the same as Tomoka. Tomoka acknowledges this without much hesitation, admitting that she indeed shares a past with Renjo, both as his childhood friend and former fiancé, while Riuri does not possess that same connection with him. Riuri then states that although she is currently nothing more than Renjo's classmate at the moment, and can never become his childhood friend, she can become his fiancé instead. Both Renjo and Tomoka are left completely stunned by her unexpected words. With sapphire blue eyes fixed firmly on Renjo without wavering, Riuri conveys her intention clearly, expressing her sincere desire to become Renjo's fiancé in the future. In the past, Renjo has a fiancé who is also his childhood friend, and that relationship becomes a bitter memory that continues to linger painfully within him even now. The family of Renjo's childhood friend belongs to one of the largest and most influential corporate groups in Japan, possessing immense wealth and authority. Because Renjo and his childhood friend are also cousins by blood, Renzo's parents decide to cancel the engagement between him and Tomoka altogether. After Renjo's parents' divorce eventually takes place, he is taken in to live with Tomoka's family for a certain period of time. During that time, Renjo harbors genuine affection for his childhood friend and firmly resolves to become someone worthy of standing proudly beside her one day. However, a major incident eventually shatters their relationship beyond repair. Renjo is driven out of the house afterward, and the plan for their engagement disappears without leaving any trace behind. The narrative then returns to the present moment, where Riuri states that although she cannot become Renjo's childhood friend, she can become his fiancé instead. Riuri expresses a heartfelt desire to be someone who brings calm, comfort, and reassurance to Renjo whenever he needs it. At a cafe not long afterward, Renjo and Riuri place an order for a single iced coffee topped with ice cream, intended to be shared between two people together. Renjo is surprised to realize that the order is meant for both of them, rather than just one person. Riuri briefly checks his reaction with a cautious glance, but Renjo does not refuse the arrangement. Riuri comments that, for some reason she cannot quite explain, the situation feels surprisingly similar to a date. Renjo feels compelled to apologize for bringing Riuri to a place like this despite the circumstances. Riuri reacts with visible irritation, her face turning noticeably red, and makes it clear that this does not mean she wants to go on a date with him at all. For Renjo, this meeting is not meant to be a date, but rather an opportunity to understand the meaning behind Ryuri's earlier words, especially her claim that she feels happy simply because Renjo invites her. Renjo also finds it hard to believe that something as serious and life-changing as an engagement could truly happen. At the same time, he recalls seeing Tomoka walk away earlier with a confused expression on her face, something he rarely witnesses, as Tomoka is not someone who usually appears uncertain or shaken. Renjo then seeks clarity regarding Ryuri's intention to make him her fiancé, suspecting that it might be nothing more than a joke made in the heat of the moment. From Renjo's perspective, if it is merely a lie intended to provoke Tomoka, then it does not particularly matter to him. He also wonders whether someone as shy and reserved as Ryuri would really go that far for such a reason. After a brief pause filled with hesitation, Ryuri conveys that she is completely serious at that moment, and that inviting Renjo to lunch earlier is actually part of that intention from the beginning. Renjo questions her motivation for doing such a thing in the first place. Ryuri explains that she acts impulsively after hearing Tomoka speak poorly about Renjo, and in that emotional moment, she proposes the idea of engagement without fully thinking it through. Even as she explains herself honestly, Ryuri senses that her reasoning still feels incomplete somehow. Renjo experiences this entire situation as one of the most confusing and unexpected events of his life. Renjo begins to suspect that there must be a deeper reason why Ryuri needs a fiancé, even if it is only a name and nothing more. This leads him to wonder whether Ryuri is being pressured into marrying someone else against her wishes. Ryuri is startled by this assumption and immediately reacts with surprise, while Renjo explains but there seems to be no other reasonable explanation available. Renjo believes that even if Ryuri holds some feelings toward him, she would not suddenly propose an engagement without a compelling and unavoidable reason. Renjo also realizes that Ryuri appears completely unaware of his past engagement with Tomoka. This further convinces him that there is a specific and serious reason behind Ryuri's need for a fiancé, something she has not yet fully revealed to him. Ryuri asks whether Renjo knows that she is born in Finland, and Renjo confirms that he is already aware of it. Ryuri then explains that her mother manages the Finnish branch of the company in Japan and currently serves as the head of that branch. However, the company has been suffering continuous financial losses for quite some time, which forces them to seek financial assistance in Japan. Renjo quickly understands that the condition behind the funding is that Ryuri must become engaged to a relative of the president of the company providing the support. Renjo considers this approach outdated, restrictive, and rooted in old-fashioned thinking that should no longer exist. He also assumes that Ryuri intends to make Renjo her fiancé, so that she can reject the proposal altogether without facing consequences. Suddenly, Ryuri slams the table with determination, expressing her belief that if she can prove she already has a fiancé, the other party will likely accept it and back away. She asks Renjo for help for the time being, emphasizing that she does not want to burden him more than necessary. Renjo wonders why she chooses him specifically, thinking there are many other men she could ask instead. At the same time, he feels the need to gather more information first before making any decision. So he asks for the name of the company that plans to provide financial support to her father's business. Ryuri then shows him the company's website through her phone. When Renjo sees the company name displayed on the screen, he is shocked to discover that it is the Kono Group, a company owned by Tomoka's family. This means that the person Ryuri is being forced to become engaged to is someone within the Kono family itself. Renjo suddenly remembers that he has a connection within the Kono family and decides to call in order to confirm the situation directly. He contacts Takeda Fuyuka, the secretary of the Kono family and one of the people familiar with his circumstances. Fuyuka handles communication between Renjo and the Kono core family, making her, in practical terms, his guardian and primary point of contact. Fuyuka answers Renjo's call almost immediately and comments that he has not contacted her in a very long time, which has made her feel somewhat lonely. Renjo then attempts to ask her something regarding the matter. Fuyuka already suspects that Renjo is calling to inquire about a specific issue and apologizes for not informing him sooner about it. When Renjo asks what she means by that statement, Fuyuka assumes he is pretending not to know and asks whether he has already heard about Ano Ryuri. Renjo is surprised that Fuyuka knows about Ryuri at all. Fuyuka laughs softly and remarks that Renjo is truly fortunate to have a beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed fiancé waiting for him. Renjo is completely stunned when Fuyuka reveals that the Kono core family intends to make Renjo Ryuri's fiancé. This is the first time Renjo learns about the plan directly, and he questions why he is chosen for this role above everyone else. Fuyuka apologizes for the fact that Renjo has been kept in the dark about such an important matter. Renjo feels that the opinions of the people directly involved are not considered at all throughout this entire arrangement. Fuyuka responds that the world is inherently unfair by nature, and this is simply how reality often works. Fuyuka believes that political marriages are outdated and unreasonable, yet she admits that this decision aligns with the will of the family head, and therefore cannot be easily opposed. When Renjo is expelled from the Kono core family years ago, he thought they had no expectations of him whatsoever and had completely abandoned any interest in his future. Now, however, it becomes clear that the Kono family intends to make use of him after all, despite everything that has happened in the past. Renjo feels that they should pity Riuri, who is being forced into an engagement solely for the benefit and convenience of other people around her. Fuyuka explains that everything ultimately depends on Renjo and the choice he decides to make. She states that Renjo only needs to act as the ideal fiancé candidate for Riuri, and adds that if Yuri ends up falling in love with him, then there should be no problem at all afterward. Renjo finds this reasoning completely irrational and difficult to accept. Fuyuka believes that Renjo is capable of doing it without much difficulty, and even imagines that if she were in Ryuri's position, she would be very happy about it. Renjo asks Fuyuka to stop teasing him for once, and requests that she give him some time to think everything through carefully. He feels overwhelmed by the entire situation, as he has no idea how to explain all of this to Riuri properly. Suddenly, Renjo notices Riuri talking with two young men nearby. When Renjo approaches them without hesitation, Riuri calls him by his given name, Toru, without the slightest hesitation. She immediately clings to Renjo's arm in front of them, and presents him as the person she is now dating. Renjo understands the situation at once from her behavior, and goes along with it, acknowledging Riuri as his girlfriend. The two men soon leave the area awkwardly, and Renjo informs Riuri that they are finally gone. However, Riuri does not loosen her hold on his arm even then, and admits that she feels frightened by what just happened. Renjo apologizes for allowing her to be placed in such a situation with those two men in the first place. Riuri then expresses her gratitude sincerely for his help and support. Renjo notices how close Riuri is acting toward him, resembling the behavior of an actual couple in a relationship. Riuri explains that situations like this happen frequently to her, which is why she hopes there will always be someone who can protect her when necessary. After a moment of silence, she suddenly remembers the arranged engagement involving the Kono family, and begins to question Renjo about it directly. Renjo immediately feels dizzy and conflicted inside, unsure of how to tell her the truth without causing confusion. After taking a deep breath to steady himself, he finally reveals that the person the Kono family intends to arrange her engagement with is himself. Riuri is visibly shocked by this revelation and struggles to process it. Renjo then tries to explain his relationship with the Kono family in greater detail. Riuri never imagines that Renjo possesses such a connection behind the scenes. Renjo understands her reaction completely, as it is difficult to believe, especially since the Kono group has a reputation for arbitrarily enforcing outdated customs like this. Riuri clarifies that her surprise comes not from the arrangement itself, but from the fact that Renjo is the one chosen as her fiancé. Renjo admits that he feels equally shocked and confused by it. Riuri comes to believe that this situation feels almost like fate, because if Renjo is her fiancé, then everything might finally be resolved without further complications. Renjo wonders whether this means that Riuri truly wants to marry him. Riuri makes it clear that it does not necessarily mean she wants to marry him out of love or romantic feelings. Renjo reflects on the fact that Riuri hates being forced into marriage with someone she does not like at all. Riuri hesitates as she responds, feeling embarrassed by her own words, and admits that if the partner is Renjo, she does not mind marrying him. Riuri explains that her feelings are not strange, reckless, or impulsive in nature. It is simply because Renjo is the same age as her. They were once close in the past, and he is a kind person whom she trusts. More than that, Riuri feels that Renjo understands her better than most people do. Renjo admits that he cannot confidently say he truly understands Riuri completely, and questions whether it is really acceptable for him to be that person. Riuri responds that if Renjo can make an effort to understand her from now on, then that alone is enough for her. She then expresses her desire for Renjo to marry her without hesitation. Renjo is stunned by the fact that Riuri is willing to marry him, even though he is not someone she loves romantically. At the same time, he understands that, given the current situation and circumstances, he is the best possible choice for her. The Kono family and Ryuri's mother are likely expecting the same outcome from this arrangement. Renjo realizes that everything now depends entirely on his own decision. He begins to question what he truly wants for himself, as his heart becomes filled with deep uncertainty and hesitation. Renjo's classmate, Riuri, suddenly proposes to him at school without any warning whatsoever. Later that same day, she repeats the proposal again when they stop by a cafe after classes have ended. Riuri begins to suspect that Renjo does not want to accept it at all. Renjo explains that it is not that he is rejecting her outright, but that something is serious as this requires careful thought from his perspective. Riuri responds that she has already thought it through thoroughly and reached her conclusion. Renjo questions her seriousness once more to make sure, and Riuri gives the same firm answer without wavering. Despite this, Renjo feels unable to take her words entirely at face value, believing that she may have said them simply because she was carried away by the moment. Renjo then asks whether Riuri would be able to have a child with him in the future. Riuri is taken aback by the question and reacts strongly, feeling that it crosses a line she did not expect. Renjo, however, insists that this is a realistic matter worth considering, because if Riuri truly marries him, such a situation would inevitably follow sooner or later. He urges her to think carefully about what marriage actually entails beyond simple feelings. After a brief pause filled with hesitation, Riuri answers that she is capable of it. This response shocks Renjo more than he anticipated. Riuri continues by explaining that she would not object if Renjo wanted such intimacy someday, but she only wishes for it to happen after marriage. Renjo originally intends to make Riuri reconsider her decision more seriously, yet the conversation moves in the complete opposite direction. He feels that Riuri has gone too far and spoken with a level of resolve he does not expect from her. Riuri then wonders whether Renjo himself desires such a relationship with her. At that moment, she notices that Renjo's gaze lingers on her chest for a brief instant. Realizing this immediately, she covers herself and points it out, while Renjo tries unsuccessfully to deny it. Riuri does not believe him at all and labels him dishonest, reminding him that he is, after all, a man. Renjo reflects that he would be a fool if he were not affected when someone like Riuri stands right before him. He stops himself from continuing further, fully aware that it would be impossible not to be drawn to Ryuri's strikingly beautiful face and appearance, even though he cannot bring himself to say it aloud. Riuri presses him to finish what he is about to say, but Renjo asks her to forget about it entirely. Riuri refuses without hesitation, insisting that she cannot let it go unless he explains himself properly, especially after he has already looked at her in that way. Overwhelmed by embarrassment and confusion, Renjo states that he has never said he wants to be engaged to Riuri and asks for some time to think everything over carefully. Riuri agrees to give him that time without complaint, but she firmly reminds him that she wants to marry him and asks him to keep that fact in mind. The following day at school, Renjo remains preoccupied with the events of the previous day and everything that has happened. Suddenly, he is greeted by Sakurai, who taps him on the shoulder from behind unexpectedly while wearing her usual energetic smile. Sakurai immediately notices that Renjo seems unusually unmotivated today, while Renjo observes that Sakurai is, as always, overflowing with energy and enthusiasm. Sakurai is driven by her determination to surpass Tomoka in every possible way. Sakurai Asuka is Renjo's classmate, whom he has known since middle school as a cheerful, outgoing, and popular student among their peers. Despite her bright and lively appearance, her academic ranking currently places her second, just below Tomoka in the overall standings. Even in a direct one-on-one student council election, Sakurai loses to Tomoka, leading her to regard Tomoka as her personal rival ever since. At first, Sakurai approaches Renjo solely to gather information about Tomoka and her habits. However, Renjo no longer has any contact with Tomoka these days, so he assumes that he is no longer of any use to Sakurai. Unexpectedly, Sakurai asks about Tomoka's weakness, specifically a fatal weakness that could cause Tomoka to lose immediately under the right circumstances. Renjo asks for an example to better understand her meaning, and Sakurai explains that Tomoka is supposedly extremely afraid of snakes, to the point that merely seeing one could make her faint on the spot. Renjo has never heard of such a thing before, and suspects that Sakurai would not be satisfied with winning by exploiting Tomoka's weakness alone. Sakurai responds that she is already aware of that herself, and admits that she likes Renjo's way of thinking about such matters. Renjo hopes that Sakurai is not teasing him once again, but Sakurai insists that she is being completely serious. She is determined to defeat Tomoka in the next exam, and wants the position of student council president to finally fall into her hands. Renjo remarks that Sakurai speaks more like a villain than a hero. Sakurai considers Renjo rude for saying that, and claims that she stands firmly on the side of justice, arguing that the real villain is Tomoko instead. Renzo disagrees with her assessment, feeling that Tomoko has never done anything genuinely evil. Sakurai insists that someone with a face as perfectly composed as Tomoko's looks more like a villain from a story instead. Frustrated by his reaction, Sakurai asks which side Renjo is actually on. Renzo states that he is on Sakurai's side without hesitation, causing her to feel embarrassed and thank him sincerely. Feeling encouraged by his answer, Sakurai declares that for Renjo's sake, she will defeat Tomoko no matter what happens. After Sakurai leaves the area, Ryuji approaches Renjo quietly. She offers to help him, since it is his turn for classroom duty that day after school. Renjo declines the offer politely, saying that he is doing fine on his own and does not need assistance. Ryuji understands his response and prepares to leave without complaint. Just as Renjo is about to go back to work, Ryuji leans in and quietly asks whether he is willing to marry her someday. Renjo is startled by the sudden question and instinctively steps back in shock and confusion. He worries that although no one nearby seems to have heard the exchange, it could become a serious problem if someone did. Ryuji leaves with a gentle smile on her face afterward. Even this alone causes Renjo to attract jealousy from the other boys in class around him. He becomes anxious about the possibility of Sakurai finding out, unsure of what she might say if she does. Later in the library after classes, Renjo reflects on why Ryuji is acting this way toward him recently. He understands that if Ryuji does not become engaged to him, she will be forced to marry a complete stranger she does not know at all. He wonders whether simply being engaged to him can truly save Ryuji from such a future. Ever since he is cast out from the family, no one has needed him for anything important, yet now Ryuji does. Renzo realizes that the reason he is reading a book about Finland is because he wants to know more about Ryuji as a person. After a moment of reflection, he denies this thought and tells himself that he is merely curious about the country itself. He reads that Finland is a small country with a population of around 5 million people, where individuals with blonde hair and blue eyes are more common than in many other European countries. This reminds him that Ryuji also has blonde hair and blue eyes. He learns that women taller than 170 centimeters are quite common there, which means that Ryuji is relatively petite by comparison. Renjo comes to realize that, in the end, his thoughts still circle back to Ryuji no matter what he does. Suddenly, Ryuji catches him and asks what he is reading so attentively. Renjo reflexively closes the book at once, prompting Ryuji to question why he does so. Renjo claims that it is simply a matter of personal privacy. Ryuji suspects that he is reading something inappropriate or embarrassing, but Renjo denies it immediately, insisting that he would never read such material in a library. Ryuji then assumes that he reads it at home instead when nobody is around. She adds that if Renjo marries her, he will no longer need such books anymore. Realizing that her words sound inappropriate the moment she says them, Ryuji quickly clarifies that she does not mean anything strange by that statement. Renzo asks what exactly she means by it, and Ryuji reminds him that he himself said the day before that he wanted to have a child with her. Renjo feels deeply embarrassed as Ryuji speaks loudly enough for several people in the library to hear. He denies ever saying such a thing outright, but Ryuji firmly insists that he absolutely did. Renzo clarifies that he said it only in the context of marriage and nothing else. Ryuji responds that if Renjo marries her someday, she would not mind him wanting such a thing, as she has already stated before. Renzo still feels that it sounds extremely strange no matter how he thinks about it. Ryuji then asks once again whether Renjo is willing to become engaged to her. Renjo hears the same question yet again, and on this very day alone, he has already lost count of how many times the topic has come up. At that moment, another girl suddenly appears nearby, revealing herself to be Sakurai. Sakurai says that she has heard rumors that Renjo told Ryuji he wanted to have a child with her. Renjo panics immediately and insists that there is a reason he said such a thing, though he struggles to explain it clearly. Sakurai comments that she has noticed Renjo and Ryuji growing very close recently, and asks them to explain themselves if there is indeed a reason behind it. She then asks directly what is really going on between Renjo and Ryuji lately. As Sakurai appears visibly confused by the situation, Ryuji calmly calls out to her. Both Sakurai and Renjo turn toward Ryuji at once, who then states that she intends to marry Renjo in the future. Sakurai is completely taken aback and seeks confirmation, unable to immediately process what she has just heard. Ryuji explains that if two people plan to marry one another, then having children is not something strange or inappropriate at all. Sakurai then questions the reason Renjo and Ryuji must get married in the first place. Renjo explains that it is a matter related to complicated family affairs beyond their control. Sakurai responds that she understands the explanation to some extent, yet it still does not make sense to her, as political marriages should no longer exist in this era. Renjo admits that, regardless of how outdated it sounds today, that is the reality they are facing right now. Sakurai clarifies that this is not what truly confuses her about the situation. What she cannot understand is why Renjo and Ryuji are able to accept such an unreasonable engagement in the first place. Renjo reflects that Sakurai's words are reasonable and understandable, because the engagement is decided so suddenly, without giving either of them time to consider their feelings toward one another. Ryuji then asks whether Sakurai has feelings for Renjo herself. Sakurai is shocked by the question, and asks why Ryuji would think such a thing about her. Ryuji admits that she cannot explain it clearly with words, but she feels that way and wants an honest answer. Sakurai responds that this does not mean she likes Renjo romantically. Ryuji presses her to confirm whether that is truly the case without hesitation. Sakurai raises her voice and states that nothing has been definitively decided yet regarding such matters. Renjo intervenes, reminding them that they are currently in a library and that the setting is inappropriate for such an argument. Ryuji then states that, in that case, she no longer needs to hold back around Sakurai, because she genuinely wants to marry Renjo. Sakurai questions her reasoning once again, pointing out that Ryuji is not even dating Renjo, and that there is no certainty Renjo has feelings for her. To Sakurai, marrying without love feels unnatural, unreasonable, and completely wrong. Ryuji wonders whether that is truly so strange, as she believes she is simply choosing the best possible path to achieve happiness for herself. Sakurai asks whether this so-called best path means becoming engaged to Renjo. Ryuji answers that, to her, it is far better than being forced into an arranged marriage with someone else she does not know. Sakurai accuses Ryuji of merely using Renjo for her own convenience, and urges her to realize that such behavior is neither fair nor right. Ryuji responds that this is precisely why she is asking Renjo to marry her, adding that she does not dislike Renjo in the slightest either. She then asks Sakurai to support her relationship with Renjo if Sakurai truly has no romantic feelings for him at all. Sakurai is completely stunned by this unexpected request and struggles to find an immediate response. After a brief pause filled with silence, she apologizes awkwardly and leaves the area abruptly. Ryuji then fixes Renjo with a sharp and observant gaze and comments that Sakurai is indeed a very beautiful girl. She warns Renjo not to be unfaithful after they are married someday. Renjo is left bewildered by the comment, wondering whether Ryuji is actually feeling jealous. He finds himself unable to fully understand Ryuji's feelings toward him no matter how much he thinks about them. At the same time, he makes it clear that he himself has not yet decided whether he will marry or become engaged to her. Ryuji responds that until Renjo finally makes a decision, she will continue to ask him again and again without giving up. Once more, she asks whether Renjo is willing to marry her. Renjo feels as though he has heard the same words repeated countless times over the course of the day. He believes that if he were to reject Ryuji firmly and without hesitation, she would eventually stop asking him. Yet despite this, he cannot understand why he finds himself unable to give her a clear refusal. Renjo then notices that the book he has been reading is no longer resting on the table. At that moment, Ryuji asks whether Renjo is reading a book about Finland simply because she is Finnish. Renjo responds that he is genuinely interested in the country itself and wonders whether Ryuji would actually believe that explanation. Ryuji makes it clear that she does not believe him at all. She then asks whether Renjo is actually curious about her as a person rather than the country. Renjo realizes how easily his thoughts and intentions can be seen through by her. Ryuji goes on to explain that the divorce rate in Finland is significantly higher than in Japan. Renjo is unaware of this fact beforehand and finds it genuinely surprising. Ryuji then reveals that her parents are already divorced and no longer live together. Renzo shares that his own parents are also divorced, creating an unexpected similarity between them. Ryuji adds that her given name, Aino, comes from the water goddess in Finnish mythology. She tells the story of goddess Aino, who is arranged to marry an older god by her mother against her wishes. Goddess Aino cries and strongly resists the arrangement, yet no one listens to her objections or concerns. As Renjo listens carefully to the story, he realizes that the position of the goddess mirrors Ryuji's current situation in many ways. Renzo asks what ultimately happens to goddess Aino in the end. Ryuji explains that Aino ends her life by throwing herself into a lake, a tragic story that is widely known throughout Finland. Ryuji then states that she is different from goddess Aino because she has Renjo by her side. To her, Renjo is the hero who does not exist anywhere within that mythology. Renjo responds that he cannot possibly be a hero, as he is unable to save even his childhood friend in the past. Ryuji then takes Renjo's hand gently and asks him not to speak that way about himself anymore. She believes that if they face difficult things together, they will become stronger than they are alone. Ryuji truly wants Renjo to marry her and remains sincere about that desire. For Renjo, this is already the 6th time Ryuji expresses that wish directly, and his answer remains unchanged. He explains that he is still only 16 years old, and that under Japanese law, they cannot legally marry yet. Ryuji then asks Renjo to become her formal fiancé instead, stating that this alone would already be enough for her. Renjo feels that this arrangement makes logical sense, a written engagement that exists in name only. Still, he wonders whether Ryuji genuinely believes that a purely formal engagement is sufficient, and whether he himself can truly treat it as nothing more than that. Renjo does not want Ryuji to become someone precious to him only to lose her again in the future. Yet he also lacks the strength to simply ignore the situation and walk away. Renjo finally makes his decision after much hesitation and states that he will become Ryuji's fiancé. Ryuji reacts as if she can hardly believe what she has just heard. Renjo clarifies that if, in the future, the situation can be resolved through another method, they can cancel the engagement since it is only a formal arrangement. Until that happens, Ryuji asks Renjo to regard her as his fiancé. Overwhelmed with happiness and relief, Ryuji feels deeply moved and expresses her heartfelt gratitude to Renjo. She then whispers a single sentence softly in Finnish. When Renjo asks what she just said, Ryuji responds that she will tell him someday when he truly marries her for real. The following day, Renzo and Ryuji visit the Kono family residence together. The mansion is so enormous and impressive that it leaves Ryuji in complete awe, while Renzo feels intensely nervous and uneasy the entire time. The Kono family is a powerful business family that owns a major corporate group based in Nagoya, and this house is also the place where Renjo's mother is born and raised. It is the home of Tomoka Kono as well, Renjo's childhood friend and former fiancé. Even though their visit is meant to fulfill procedures related to the engagement, the situation still feels deeply awkward and uncomfortable for Renjo. Renjo and Ryuji are welcomed warmly by Fiuka upon their arrival. Renjo notes that it has been a long time since they last meet each other, and Fiuka responds that it has been far longer than that in her opinion. She suddenly hugs Renjo without warning and remarks that he should visit her more often in the future. Renjo is startled by the gesture and does not know how to react. Fiuka comments that she often hugs him like this in the past when they spend more time together. Renzo becomes aware that Ryuji is quietly watching the interaction from nearby. Fiuka then greets Ryuji politely and introduces herself properly. Ryuji asks about the nature of Fiuka's relationship with Renjo, and Fiuka teasingly asks whether Ryuji is curious about it. Ryuji states that she is Renjo's fiancé and therefore has a reason to ask. Fiuka reassures her that there is no need to worry, explaining that Renjo is like a younger brother to her rather than anything else. She then jokingly suggests that Ryuji might want to hug Renjo as well. Ryuji admits that she might actually want to try it, which immediately shocks Renjo. Fiuka lightly pushes Renjo forward and encourages Ryuji to try it while the timing feels right. She is convinced that Renjo also wants to hold Ryuji in his arms. Renjo admits that this is true, but before he can finish explaining himself, Ryuji cuts in and asks whether he would mind. Renjo answers that there is no way he would mind such a thing, and inwardly he feels that he might even enjoy it. He notices that although Ryuji's figure is not as pronounced as Fiuka's, it still possesses its own unique charm and appeal. Ryuji senses his gaze almost immediately and becomes irritated, pointing out that Renjo is looking at her chest and asking whether he is comparing her to Fiuka. She insists that she is still growing and should not be judged yet. Ryuji then asks Renjo to hug her first as a way of apologizing for staring. Watching the scene unfold before her, Fiuka comments that youth is truly beautiful and full of energy. Renjo reflects that he has hugged Ryuji once before when she nearly falls at a bookstore, but that moment is purely accidental and unplanned. He has never thought of holding her the way one would hold a girlfriend or fiancé. However, Ryuji is now officially his fiancé, and the atmosphere surrounding them has already shifted beyond his control. When Renjo places his hand gently on Ryuji's shoulder, Ryuji suddenly cries out in embarrassment. Renjo explains that he is only touching her shoulder and nothing more. Ryuji admits that she understands this perfectly well, yet still finds the situation unbearably embarrassing. She looks at Renjo with an expression that makes her seem vulnerable, defenseless, and completely exposed, as if she is about to be overtaken by her emotions. Renzo realizes that if Ryuji looks at him like that for much longer, he might end up doing more than simply hugging her. At that very moment, Tomoka appears nearby and remarks that Renjo and Ryuji look as though they are enjoying themselves quite a lot. One complicated situation has barely passed, only for another equally troublesome situation to immediately take its place. Renjo and Ryuji feel caught completely off guard by Tomoka, and Renjo thinks that they should get out of there as quickly as possible. However, Ryuji pulls Renjo's shirt to stop him from leaving, and then hugs his arm tightly. Renjo is genuinely shocked by her sudden action. At the same time, Ryuji wants Renjo not to feel awkward around Tomoka anymore, because the two of them are already officially engaged. Renjo sees Tomoka's face looking unusually frightening and tense, yet he cannot push Ryuji away while she is holding him so closely. Moreover, Tomoka is someone who should hate him after everything that happened, so Renjo begins to wonder why Tomoka is actually angry. Ryuji then says that if she is the one who is not engaged to Renjo, then Renjo should not want to hold her like this at all. Renjo is truly shocked by that statement, but he also remembers that Tomoka actually wants to hug him at that time. Renjo does not respond to Ryuji's words immediately. Ryuji then asks whether Tomoka is feeling jealous. Tomoka becomes visibly annoyed and shouts that she could never be jealous of Ryuji under any circumstances. Renjo sees that expression clearly, which is very different from Tomoka's usual perfect and composed appearance. Ryuji then asks for the hug to be continued later when they are alone. Because her status as Renjo's fiancé, she feels that she can hug Renjo anytime she wants. She also says that she feels uncomfortable with Tomoka's presence nearby. Tomoka then states that since Ryuji has only just met Renjo recently, Ryuji has never taken a bath together with him before. Ryuji is completely shocked and says that of course she has never done that. She then imagines herself taking a bath together with Renjo, making Renjo grow even more panicked and embarrassed. Tomoka says that she is not only Renjo's former fiancé, but that she also used to live together with him for years, so she has taken a bath together with him as well. Renjo begins to wonder what Tomoka and Ryuji are actually arguing about anymore. Ryuji then asks to confirm whether Tomoka truly has taken a bath together with Renjo in the past. Tomoka answers somewhat hesitantly that she has, when they are still young children. Ryuji then asks how old she is at that time exactly. Tomoka replies that the last time she and Renjo take a bath together is when they are in 6th grade. At that time, she says that Renjo looks at her with a lecherous gaze. Renjo immediately denies it without hesitation, and says that he never looks at Tomoka in that way. Ryuji asks again whether that is really true, because being in 6th grade is no longer considered being a very small child. Renjo firmly confirms it, but Tomoka says that if that is true, it only makes her even more annoyed somehow. Ryuji panics slightly and says that she changes her mind entirely. She wants to keep hugging Renjo there, and she also wants to live in the same house as Renjo and take a bath together with him. Fuyuka, who hears this unexpected conversation, thinks that it is actually a good idea. She suggests that Renjo and Ryuji take a bath together tomorrow, because doing so will strengthen their bond as a couple considerably. Renjo and Ryuji say in unison that they could never do such a thing. They then look at each other awkwardly and fall completely silent. Renjo thinks about how he and Tomoka have been together since early childhood. Fuyuka says that Renjo and Ryuji can do it because starting tomorrow, the two of them will live in the same house. Renjo is shocked to hear that he will be living together with Ryuji starting the very next day. Fuyuka laughs casually and says that it is perfectly normal because they are already engaged. She adds that the Kono family will prepare the place for them, and that the house is a luxurious mansion with every convenience. Renjo says that this is not the real problem at all. He explains that he and Ryuji are still in high school, and he worries that he might be expelled from school for being considered as having a promiscuous relationship. Fuyuka asks Renjo to remain calm because the Kono family is the largest donor to the high school, giving them overwhelming influence within the institution itself. Renjo reacts with disbelief and frustration, feeling that the situation makes no sense and should not be justified simply because of money or status. Fuyuka firmly explains that when the Kono family declares something wrong to be right, the school inevitably follows, as the family has the power to reshape statements and decisions however they wish. She also explains that permission from Ryuji's mother has already been arranged beforehand, meaning all administrative and familial matters are completely settled. Because of this, starting the next day, Ryuji and Renjo are officially able to spend time together without restriction or interference. Ryuji becomes irritated upon hearing this information, as she has never been informed of such an important decision beforehand. Fuyuka clarifies that the decision comes directly from the head of Tomoka's family, who is currently absent, making Tomoka the acting representative for the day. Tomoka is taken aback when she realizes that her visit to the house serves only to formalize an order allowing Renjo and Ryuji to live together. Renjo is equally surprised, discovering that Tomoka herself has not been informed in advance about the full purpose of the arrangement either. Tomoka can only remind them to refrain from inappropriate behavior at all times, while Renjo expresses his intention not to cross any lines whatsoever. Tomoka begins to speculate about the risks of Renjo sharing a room with someone as attractive as Ryuji, and Ryuji adds the possibility that Renjo might be tempted to act on impulse someday. This remark irritates Tomoka immediately, who turns an angry gaze toward Ryuji, feeling that Ryuji treats the matter far too lightly. Tomoka urges Ryuji to be cautious and responsible, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. Ryuji questions what exactly she needs to be cautious about in this situation, prompting Tomoka to explain that Ryuji must be careful in case she is pressured into doing something beyond her limits or personal comfort. Ryuji remains completely confident that Renjo would never act in such a manner toward her. Tomoka, however, warns her not to be naive about these things, insisting that all men possess instinctual desires and questioning whether Renjo has ever looked at Ryuji in an unusual way before. Ryuji admits that Renjo has once glanced at her chest and made a remark about wanting to have a child with her someday. This revelation shocks Tomoka, Fuyuka, and Renjo simultaneously, leaving the atmosphere noticeably tense. Renjo hurriedly insists that it is a misunderstanding and that his words were taken out of context, while Tomoka immediately tells Fuyuka that Renjo cannot be trusted and that such an arrangement should not proceed any further. Fuyuka responds with amused laughter, acknowledging that Tomoka's concern is not entirely unfounded or unreasonable. Tomoka expresses even further worry, suggesting that if Renjo lives in the same house as Ryuji herself might end up doing something completely unexpected. Ryuji calmly states that she does not see any problem with that possibility whatsoever. Both Renjo and Tomoka are visibly taken aback by her response. Ryuji explains that if it involves Renjo, she is willing to allow him to do whatever he wants, as she personally does not mind at all. She even claims that she would feel the same way despite still being in high school. Tomoka reacts strongly to this statement, asserting that such a thing is absolutely unacceptable under any circumstances. Ryuji argues that she and Renjo are already engaged, making the situation different in her eyes. She believes there should be no issue because she intends to marry Renjo in the future, viewing the matter as something natural rather than improper or inappropriate. Renjo then points out that Ryuji's body is pressed against his while she is speaking, and Ryuji admits that she is doing it intentionally on purpose. This sight truly infuriates Tomoka, who can no longer hide her frustration and irritation. She asks Fuyuka to intervene and scold them both, warning that their behavior could cause serious trouble, especially while they are still students. Fuyuka laughs again and agrees that Tomoka has a point, advising Renjo and Ryuji to rethink their actions carefully and responsibly. Tomoka clarifies that her concern is not about personal feelings at all, but about rules and common sense, emphasizing that as long as they are still in high school, such actions are forbidden because engaging in behavior beyond one's age is fundamentally prohibited. Fuyuka merely smiles in response, thinking that Tomoka is surprisingly innocent in her strictness and perspective. Fuyuka then calls out to Renjo directly, and he responds attentively without hesitation. She asks him to treat Ryuji properly and with genuine care moving forward. Renjo understands and accepts this responsibility, acknowledging that Ryuji is now officially his fiancé. Even if they live under the same roof, Renjo has no intention of doing anything inappropriate, especially anything that could cause Ryuji trouble or discomfort. To him, that possibility is completely unthinkable and unacceptable. For Renjo, the engagement itself is merely a formality for practical reasons, as he and Ryuji are not actually a romantic couple yet. Tomoka states that the decision for Renjo and Ryuji to live under the same roof comes directly from her father, making it a matter already settled by the head of the family. However, she firmly conveys that if anything happens as a result of this arrangement, she will never forgive Renjo. This declaration causes Renjo to panic slightly, as he realizes the seriousness behind Tomoka's words. Tomoka further explains that she is Renjo's former fiancé, and because of that shared history, she refuses to accept a future where Renjo finds happiness alone while leaving her behind. She makes it clear that she would not be able to forgive him for such an outcome no matter what. Ryuji fixes a sharp and unwavering gaze on Tomoka while continuing to cling tightly to Renjo's arm. She expresses her sincere desire for Renjo's happiness, making her stance unmistakably clear. Ryuji then turns her attention toward Renjo, reinforcing the idea that she intends to be the one who brings him happiness in the future. Tomoka questions what Renjo himself is actually capable of doing in this complicated situation. At that moment, Ryuji notices that Tomoka has been calling Renjo by his given name, Toru, all along without realizing it. Realizing her slip immediately, Tomoka covers her mouth, visibly troubled by her own mistake. Ryuji confronts Tomoka by wondering whether she still harbors feelings for Renjo even now. Tomoka immediately denies it, insisting that such a thing is impossible and completely out of the question. Despite her denial, the emotional strain becomes too much for her to handle, and she abruptly leaves the scene. Afterward, Fuyuka comments that Tomoka has a surprisingly cute side to her personality, adding that she will handle the rest of the matters there herself. Ryuji then asks Renjo about the reason his engagement with Tomoka was called off in the past. Renjo admits that he himself is the one who disappointed Tomoka the most. This confession immediately sparks Ryuji's curiosity and concern. Renjo begins to explain that although it was called an engagement, it was actually an arrangement decided by their parents, who are relatives of one another. In the past, Tomoka often fell ill and tended to isolate herself from others, and Renzo's role was to stay close and protect her whenever necessary. At that time, Renjo promised that he would always protect Tomoka and remain by her side no matter what happened in the future. However, he acknowledges that he is the one who ultimately broke that promise in the end. When they are in their first year of middle school, Tomoka, as the daughter of a major corporation, is kidnapped for ransom, and Renjo becomes involved in the incident as well. Ryuji reacts by recognizing the incident as something extremely serious and dangerous. Renjo agrees, explaining that the police and media intentionally keep the case out of the public eye, preventing it from becoming public news. During the abduction, an unexpected opportunity suddenly arises for Renjo to escape on his own. In that moment, he chooses to save himself first, fleeing without attempting to rescue Tomoka. Renjo explains that he is grateful the police arrive in time, allowing Tomoka to be rescued safely without injury. Even so, his actions deeply disappoint the Kono family, leading directly to the cancellation of the engagement. Ryuji responds by pointing out that Renjo is only a middle school student at the time, and that anyone in his position would likely be unable to do anything meaningful. Renjo counters that a fiancé who is sworn to protect Tomoka instead betrays her and runs away, making it natural for Tomoka to feel disappointed and resentful. Renjo openly admits that this is the kind of person he is, and questions whether Ryuji can still accept the idea of marrying someone like him. Ryuji argues that the situation is unfair, emphasizing that Renjo is the only one who struggles to protect Tomoka all this time. She questions what Tomoka has ever done for Renjo in return for his efforts and sacrifices. Renjo finds himself unable to answer her question. Ryuji continues by stating that Renjo does everything alone and is condemned simply because he fails once, which she considers deeply cruel and unreasonable. She expresses her desire to become a source of strength for Renjo, even while acknowledging her own need for support and reassurance. Because Renjo is such a kind and caring person, she finds herself wanting even more strongly to live together with him. Renzo reminds her that he is a man and that she should not forget that fact. Ryuji counters by emphasizing that they are already engaged to one another. She even wonders whether Renjo would hold her every day if they lived together under the same roof. She goes further, expressing a wish to share even more intimate daily moments with him, as she wants their relationship to deepen beyond what it is now. Renjo firmly maintains that he has no intention of doing such things no matter what. Even so, Ryuji calmly states that she would not mind if she were to become pregnant with Renjo's child someday, repeating the thought once again to stress how important and sincere it is to her.